Grit and grace, that's how we grow. Step by step and child by child we know. There's power in the words we say. We lift the voices, light the way. Grit and grace, it's a journey we all share. For every child everywhere.
Welcome back to Grit and Grace, a literacy journey. Today's episode is going to be a great one. It is all about transformation, the kind that happens when courageous leaders meet evidence-based practice and they have a relentless focus on what is best for kids, for all of their students, not some, but all of them. This episode it's also one that's very close to our hearts here at Angela Hanlon and Associates because over the last 2 years, we have had the extreme privilege of working alongside the incredible team at Rockdale School District in Illinois. And what they have accomplished in a short time is nothing short of inspiring. So, we are shining the spotlight on their district and their leadership today, and also the significant literacy gains that have been made in just 2 short years. Have they reached the pinnacle of where they're going? No, they have not. But are they making gains and are they on their way to get there? Absolutely. So, I am thrilled to welcome two incredible school leaders to our podcast. Yay! Kirk, her assistant principal. Together, the two of them have led a very powerful shift in how reading is taught, how learning is supported, and how leadership shows up every single day in their school. So, in our episode today, we are going to explore what changed, how they did it, and what it really takes to create a culture where all students can learn to read and also love it at the same time. This isn't theory. This is real work, real change, and real results. So let's dive in and welcome these two special guests. Welcome, Elizabeth and Hannah.
Hello.
Hi.
It is so great that you are here with us. Thank you for being willing to do this. I know it's a big ask, so thank you both.
We're so happy to be here.
Good.
Yeah, and just doing this podcast with you. We are so excited to share our journey.
Yes.
All right. Well, great. So you have been on quite a journey these last 2 years. So one, if you could just introduce yourselves each and then talk about what inspired the decision to actually make introduce yourselves a bit.
So I'm Elizabeth Darlin. I'm the principal over at Rockdale School District 84, and I'm currently in my second year of my principalship here.
And I am Hannah Kirk, and I am the Director of Student Services here at Rockdale School, which is just a fancy way of saying assistant principal. And this is my third year in the administration world, but this is actually my 11th year here at Rockdale School. I was previously a teacher.
Wonderful. Thank you. So what actually inspired the decision to make such significant shifts in instruction at Rockdale?
So when I started at Rockdale in 2024, that was my first time being a principal in my own building. I had 4 years of administrative experience prior to Rockdale, but it was always under another principal. So I really wanted to make sure I did right by the students and staff of Rockdale. So when I started, Rockdale was a targeted school. So every year in Illinois, schools get report cards and you can fall under different categories. Rockdale was in the second lowest category you could fall into, and that's based on a variety of factors, but a big one is the academic growth and success of its students. So the summer I started, two teachers, a second and third grade teacher who have been at Rockdale for decades, emailed me and asked for a meeting. This was the first time I had met either of them, and they told me about a training they went to in Cicero, which isn't too far from us. And they told me all about this amazing presenter they saw named Angie
Oh
Hamlin. And they were convinced that she is what Rockdale needed. So I remember doing some research and realizing, they were right. So once I saw the results that Angie was able to get at her school in Missouri, which is very similar to Rockdale, I knew that we had to try it, right? So I brought a proposal to our building leadership team and told them I was interested in bringing Angie in with the caveat that if we did, Everyone had to do exactly what she said, no matter what, and they all agreed to it. So then I brought a proposal to our superintendent, and he agreed to let me try out this plan that we had. And it's been an amazing experience so far. So we knew that our kids needed help with reading. We knew that they had so much potential in them. We just weren't using the right instructional strategies to tap into them. And they have proven to us in less than 2 years that they absolutely had the skills to be successful readers. They just needed a different approach to learning.
You're so right. Yes. And I think that's a message that everyone can take from this, that it really is all about the instruction, that the students can do it. It's all about the instruction. So let's talk a bit more then about the instruction. What did the instruction look like before? And then kind of describe that to us, and then give us an explanation, description of what it looks like now. What's changed about it, if you will.
I mean, so much has changed. But so prior to us kind of starting this journey with you, Angie, I'd say our instruction was definitely unsystematic, and learning was very much a passive sport, if you will.
Okay.
Teachers were doing their best with what they had instructionally, and then resource wise. They were really trying hard to make that balanced literacy model work in their classrooms. And they just weren't seeing that academic growth. So because of that, we definitely made some changes, right? So, or I should say prior to that, we could say that instructionally we were seeing very much like what was standard in classrooms. Like a teacher would ask a question, we would have one student raise their hand and respond, or, you know, and then the rest of our kids would just like check out completely. So now that we're seeing our teachers definitely work towards that all means all mentality, that, you know, we ask our teachers to guide teachers, or rather their students, in those core responses, using whiteboards, trying to get all of our students to respond rather than just having one student respond at a time. I did ask some of our teachers secretively, because we wanted this to kind of be a surprise to them, like what they thought of their instruction prior to you coming in and working with them compared to where they are now. And they used the word hodgepodge, that they just kind
Okay.
of like things were just kind of being pieced together. And they didn't really feel like they were hitting everything that they needed to hit. But now they feel like their reading instruction has a lot better flow. They're seeing that their students are having more meaningful conversations, and they're more on topic, and that they're actually really enjoying teaching reading. I can say, and maybe Elizabeth can kind of add on to this, that I feel like I'm seeing them be a lot more confident in their instruction. You know, I spoke with a teacher earlier today, and she felt like she's more confident. She feels like she's seeing more results from her students. So because her students are being successful, she felt more successful.
100%.
You know, and I see the confidence level go up every visit. I've seen it every visit. That and the engagement has just gone through the roof.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, do you want to add anything?
I think that Hannah hit everything. I think a big thing to focus on is that feeling of just not knowing what to do, kind of that grasping at straws of, we know what we want them to do, but how do we get them there? And I think that that has been the biggest mind shift in our teachers of, okay, well, now we know what we want them to do and what to do to get them there. So it's been a
Yes.
great thing to see from them. Right.
Good. And I want to point out they were working so hard.
Oh, yes.
So hard, and doing so much at home and on the weekends and at night. And it's a staff still that will do anything to meet the needs of their students.
They will.
Yes, they will.
Yes, it's honestly, they've just changed the things they're doing in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yes. So I also want to talk about continuing the instructional change. You've also really changed the programs you're using, kind of the materials and resources you're using. So you have implemented two programs, I know, specifically that I'd like to ask you about. You've implemented both the Super Kids reading program from Zahner Blozer in grades K through 2, but you've also implemented EBLI, evidence-based literacy instruction in for intervention. So what impact do you feel those programs have had not only on your teachers but also your students?
So these two programs have been an amazing addition to Rockdale. Just like we talked about earlier, for so many years, teachers kind of felt like there was no program that they could access to help the students that were performing below grade level. We were just kind of going around in circles, having all of these conversations about the kids who've been struggling since kindergarten, and now they're in sixth grade and they're still not reading the way they should be. But no
Yeah.
action was really being taken because nobody knew what to do. So Ebley has fixed that problem almost immediately. We were able to take our school data, place students in intervention groups based on their fluency scores, which we weren't tracking before Angie came, implement a research-based program, Ebley, that's proven to be effective, and we are rapidly moving kids out of intervention. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about the data of Ebley later because I know that there is a question about data, but so that fixed our tier 2 and our tier 3 problem, but we still had a huge tier 1 problem in our
Yeah.
classrooms.
Yeah.
So there was not a single teacher in the building that was doing the same thing, and that was no fault to them. There had never been guidance on what direction they should move, so they were just all doing what they thought was best for the kids that they had in their classrooms. But with Super Kids, there's finally cohesiveness in our K2 classrooms, which are some of the most important classrooms to reach with like reading implementation and reading instruction. And all of the teachers are doing an amazing job with that Super Kids implementation. They're teaching it with fidelity and it's showing in our data. So I think our kids feel more confident because of this program, but so do our teachers. I'll say I was in a first grade classroom last week and the teacher asked the kids, she said, "What vowel team do we use to make the long A sound when it is the medial sound in the word?" And without a beat, every kid said AI. So then she looked at them and she posed the next question of, okay, well, what vowel team do we use when the long A is at the end of a word? And again, without hesitation, every single one of them, core response, said AY. So I'm not sure I've ever heard an entire group of first graders answer that type of question before, with the understanding of this is what you use in the middle of the word, this is what you use at the end of the word. One or two could probably tell you, but this was an entire
Yeah.
class that was so confident in their answers to a question about vowel teams, and medial sounds. So that was a new experience for me and their teacher because the look on their teacher's face was priceless. So it's
So exciting.
yes, it has been an exciting implementation for these two programs, and I think our teachers are feeling it too.
Talk just a moment about your demographics. Let's talk
Yeah.
just a moment about, I mean, these are not students that were already flying high. These
Mm.
were, I mean, you have quite a few hurdles, I'll say, that a lot of schools could look at and say, well, because of that, these students might not be able to make progress. So you don't have to go deep into it, but just brief overview.
Yeah, so our students, we are a low income school. Almost 100% of our students come from low income families. We do have a high percentage of ESL students, so students whose first language is Spanish, or students who come from homes where, like, maybe their parents' first language is Spanish. We are 100% free and reduced lunch at Rockdale, and we currently do not have a preschool program. So unless our kindergarten students qualified for like an early childhood program through our special ed co-op. Almost none of our kindergarten students participate in preschool. So they do come in a little bit lower than we would like to see, which does make it a little bit harder to catch them up when they come to us in kindergarten. So as brief as I can get, that is a little bit of an overview of our students at Rockdale.
Thank you for that. And to schools listening out there, those have not been excuses. They've not been hurdles. The instruction and the implementation of both Super Kids, EBLI, and also all of the changes you've just made in instruction have addressed all of those concerns. So, one of the first things that we worked on together with your staff members was the implementation of the John Hattie's evidence-based practice of teacher clarity. So we started with all classrooms, all teachers having clear learning intentions and success criteria, sharing the relevance. And all of the learning intentions were based on a standard. And this is something that we rolled out from the very beginning. How do you think that has changed the way instruction is now delivered in your classrooms?
So with learning intentions and success criteria, it's definitely about making that learning more visible for our students. Um, I mean, as I was coming into the world of education, I'm sure Elizabeth can say the same thing. So we kind of came into it around the same time. Um, like we were always encouraged to have our learning objectives like on the board, our I can statements on the board. But honestly, it always kind of felt like just like a box I was checking for, quote unquote best practices. It wasn't necessarily something I was, um, you know, explicitly going over with my students. I might use it in my introduction to a lesson, but I wasn't necessarily taking that and making sure it was really meaningful to students. Um, but now our teachers are really doing an amazing job with learning intentions and success criteria. It was the first thing, as you said, Angie, that we really worked on with our teachers, of taking those and, they read them at the beginning of their lesson out loud with their students. Their students respond back to them by sometimes they're doing an echo response, sometimes they're all doing choral reading at the same time. Um, but they're making them visible to our students, and then they're going back and referencing them throughout the lesson.
Yes.
One of our third grade teachers does a really great job, and she kind of almost makes it like a checklist for her students. And she will, like, as they accomplish something throughout the lesson, go back and say, oh, that's one of our success criteria for our learning intention. And she'll say what that learning intention is. She'll say what that success criteria was. And then it's almost like, did we do that? And then her kids, her students decide whether or not they have accomplished that, whether or not they can check that off their list. And then they decide as a class, have we done that? And then they check it off. So it's been a really great way for our kids to assess their own understanding. And then it's a great way for our teachers to continue guiding them through what it is that the outcome is actually supposed to be.
Beautifully explained. Excellent. Way to go. And I know exactly as you were talking about that third grade teacher doing that. I've seen her do that and I could just picture her and like, oh, grab that marker. Yes. And the students get so excited when she checks it off too. The
Yep.
excitement of like, yes, we have learned that. That was a great example to share. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So then after really teacher clarity, then we went deep into the work for explicit instruction. And so that has played a large role in the transformation of instruction. So how did the two of you really support staff in learning how to do it? And not only how to do this, but how to do it well? Because I like to refer to you as the dynamic duo. You've done a fabulous job of doing this. So what has that looked like?
So we owe half of our success at Rockdale to explicit instruction, and we owe the other half to our teachers being so willing to implement it. So it's been the best teaching strategy that I've ever seen implemented in a classroom. And it's all just common sense. Like when you learn about the elements of explicit instruction and how to use it in your classroom so students are successful, you're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. That's what every
Yeah.
single teacher in America should be doing. But it's just not something that happens as often as it should because you're not taught to teach that way in college. And I'm a firm believer that all college education majors should now be required to become experts in explicit instruction.
Right?
I think we're
Right? Yes.
shocking the student teachers that come into our
Yes.
building and they're like seeing our
Yes.
our teachers teach. I think a huge shock to their systems.
Yes.
100%.
And I did not learn it in college, and I know the
No,
two of you didn't either, and teachers still aren't. I don't understand why not, but
no,
we're not.
I know.
Yes.
Because I had mentioned earlier that when we decided to bring Angie to Rockdale, I told the staff that we had to do everything that she told us to do. And that is exactly what they did. It was really amazing to see all the teachers just jump full force into everything that you were telling us to do. They listened, they went through the trainings, and without a second thought, went right back to their classrooms to implement everything they learned. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and they put their entire heart into giving it their all in their classroom. So I knew that I also had to give it my all as the leader. If they'd asked me a question that I didn't know the answer to, I went straight to Angie to get clarification. If they asked me to come in and watch a lesson, I was there. Eventually, Hannah and I became more comfortable with it because it was all brand new to us as well. So we created a teacher feedback form to give to teachers as a way to provide them with immediate feedback on how they were doing. The nice thing about this form is it's not evaluative and it's truly just a way for them to track their progress. So we've never asked for perfection, and I think that's really helped make teachers feel comfortable with the implementation process.
That's such a critical point too, is you just really ask them to be willing to try
Yeah.
and be willing to implement. Now, kudos to all of them because man, did they do it.
Yeah, they did.
So like amazing applause to them because it was amazing to me that right after I might provide the training session, Elizabeth, you might text me the very next day and say, I was in classrooms, they're already doing it, which
Every
is
time.
not always normal. It's fabulous, but it's not always normal. Did you start to add something?
I was just saying every time. I feel like every time you came
Yeah.
and you gave them a new skill, they went right in the next day and they were implementing it to the best of their ability. They might have had
Yes.
questions, they might have been uncomfortable with it, but they were trying and they were doing it.
And that's really where your leadership played such a critical role in this because both of you were doing every single step of this with them. You were modeling in the rooms. If they had questions, you jumped in and modeled. You were talking about it in your weekly newsletters. You were talking about it in your faculty meetings. It was constantly the focus. But honestly, the two of you set up and to other listeners, or I'm sorry, to other leaders, please listen to this critically important part. You really set up this very safe culture and this very safe climate and environment for them to try it. Like you said, no talk of evaluation whatsoever, not a gotcha, just we are here for coaching and support. And don't you think I feel like that played a huge aspect in why this went so well.
Yeah, I think that if they didn't trust that we were not judging them for making mistakes, we were not evaluating them every time they came in the classroom, I don't think they would have been as open to doing it. Hannah's known them for a lot longer than I have,
Yeah.
but just knowing them for the short amount of time that I did before implementing this, that's kind of the vibe that I get for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like a lot of other staff, they're a tough group of cookies, right? They want to do right by kids. They,
Yes.
and there's always that level of skepticism, but I think because Elizabeth and I were just like, hey, just take this one thing. Just do this one piece. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Like we're going to work on it all.
Yes.
We're going to talk it through, and then like I think because we showed them that we were willing to go out and do the learning too, and we were willing to go out and keep practicing those pieces as well, that they were willing to trust us. So
So
that's
important.
yeah,
So important. And you're right. They completely trusted you and they knew this was something that was not done to them. It was not thrown at them. This is something that the two of you embraced the work every bit as strongly as they did, got right in there and were doing it right along with them and really gave them the safe space to try it. And honestly, I've heard you both say it's okay if you do it wrong. Like you can fail. It's fine as long as we're trying it. So let's shift now and talk about your leadership and kind of how that's changed. Let's talk about how your leadership has evolved. How would you describe the difference in how you're leading right now on year two than maybe how you were doing in the beginning or prior to if you had done this work, maybe what it might would have looked like? You've
I'll
both
let you
grown
go
so
first.
much. Let me just say, I'm so proud. You've grown so much.
Thanks.
So, how's it feel on your end?
Well, so prior to stepping into administration, I taught middle school math for 10 years. So I never thought I would know as much about reading as I do now, and have learned so much about reading as I have in the past 2 years. So that has been a huge shift for me. I have done a lot, have had to do a lot of my own homework because, when you're working with kindergarten through fifth grade teachers who reading is half of their day, you kind of have to know what they're talking about because to me, truly, they are the experts, right? They are the ones who they know their grade level inside and out. And I'm just the person who's coming in and giving them feedback. They really know what they're doing. So I've had to learn what it is that they're doing. So that's been a big shift for me. And I think, again, I mean, I know we ourselves have worked with administrators before, but I think a key piece for our leadership style is that we just talked about it. We get in the trenches with our teachers and we're learning alongside them. And, we're definitely walking alongside them. We're not like pulling them along. We're not pushing them along. We're definitely kind of hand in hand with them on
Yeah,
this.
definitely not commanding it, not controlling, just no, you're leading. Yeah. Elizabeth, do you want to add to it?
Yeah, for me, I think that I've started to lead with a purpose. So I have a clear goal in mind, and everything I do and every decision I make is a vehicle to get us to that goal. So and so is Hannah. Like, I think together we are just so driven to get all
Yeah.
of our kids to grade level in reading. I like literally dream about it at night. I have had actual dreams about our data and our kids being able to read. But I love it. It gives me a purpose every time I walk through the door of Rockdale. And it reminds me that truly everything we do is for the students that sit in front of us every day. And if we aren't doing everything we can to make sure we're providing them with the best education that we can, then we're not doing everything we can. So I think that that clarity and that drive has really shaped my leadership over the past 2 years at Rockdale.
We could stop right now and end it right there, mic drop. And that would be exactly what leaders need to hear. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Beautiful. Sorry, can't not give you feedback on that. That's great. So I feel like you have both embraced the role, truly embraced the role of instructional leadership. That of
Right.
course is the work that
Yeah.
I try to get leaders to do, and that's what I talk to them about. But the two of you have completely embraced it. So I want to ask you because it is a foreign concept to a lot of leaders, and there are leaders that say, I don't have time for that. I've heard that. I also hear leaders say, well, yeah, but there's so many things to do in a day. I just don't have time to get in the classroom. Or, oh, there are fires to put out. Or I wear so many hats. So when you hear instructional leadership, what does that mean to you personally? And what would you say to someone who might be saying those things? Because you've just embraced it and ran with it.
It's been a journey
Yeah,
for us both, definitely.
Yeah.
So I really think instructional leadership is about like knowing the strengths of your teachers, and how we as a team can use those strengths to meet the needs of our students. and then providing a clear, explicit path to guide teachers along so that way we're all moving in the same direction.
I would say to me, instructional leadership, again, like Hannah said, guiding your teachers in a direction where they feel successful and a direction where they see success in their students. And that means asking them to do a lot of hard things, but that also means that you're not asking them to do anything that you wouldn't do. So if you need us to model a lesson using explicit instruction, we'll do it. If you want us to teach a small group, we'll put it on our calendar. Instructional leadership cannot be us sitting in our office telling everybody what to do, but then not monitoring and playing a role in making sure it gets done. It truly takes every single person in the building to be a team player and play a role in our student success. And when you have a goal as big as wanting every kid to read on grade level, that means the principal and the assistant principal has to play a role in that too. But at the end of the day, they don't have to listen to you. Being a leader means nothing if you don't have the trust in your staff. And I think that we have been as successful as we have because there is a level of trust there. They may not always like what we have to say, but at the end of the day, they're always willing to work hard because we try to maintain an environment of trust and progress over perfection. So I really couldn't be more appreciative of the dedication they have all shown to their craft over the last 2 years because it just really shows that they have trust in us to some extent to where they're willing to take this journey with us.
Definitely. Yes. And you've built that. Yes. It's a way to go. So, how do you support your teachers day to day? In that you both talked about staying focused. And I know it's something personally, I know that it's something that you both work on, but how do you support your teachers in that day to day, truly staying focused on really implementing those evidence-based practices? How do you help them?
I know that Elizabeth talked about it before, but we did develop that feedback form where we go into classrooms and we're again informally observing. We're not evaluating them at all. We're not expecting perfection. It's just outlining those basic practices of explicit instruction that we've encouraged our teachers to use in their classrooms. One side of the form is just looking at strategies like choral responses, no raised hands, increasing the number of whole group responses versus just one child answering at a time. The other side is that explicit vocabulary routine that Angie has drilled into us that I know that I'm sure our teachers are doing in their sleep, that our
Yeah.
kids can do in their sleep. So going through and outlining that, and then we're able to provide that feedback on and suggestions on how they could just continue evolving their practice. We also make sure that we're modeling explicit instruction like throughout the building. Elizabeth does an amazing job every morning. She gets on the announcement. She's got her word of the day. And she works through the vocabulary routine with our entire building. Kids are walking down the hallway and they're, clapping out syllables and, thinking about a sentence that they're going to share with us later in the day. And then, of course, like as we get into classrooms, we're modeling that explicit instruction. If we're going into the cafeteria and going over expectations, we're eliciting those whole group responses and making sure that we're utilizing those practices and modeling those practices for our teachers as much as possible and making it really a normal thing for our students to experience no matter what setting they're in.
Wonderful. Yes, and you've definitely made that happen in your building. It's been so great to watch through my eyes, through my lens, and to see you do this at the level that you've been able to do it. So there are schools that will say, well, gosh, this work though so challenging. Like, yes, they've had celebrations, but oh my goodness. So I don't want to sugarcoat this and act like, well, there aren't any because we know that there are. So let's talk for a bit about the challenges that happen because you've both mentioned today that this has been a journey. And I think you'd both probably say you're still on that journey. So what were some of the challenges during this transition, and how did you either face them, deal with them, or overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge was being new to all of this ourselves. So,
Yeah.
and me being a brand new principal in this building. So here I am, first year principal, trying to learn my staff, learn the kids in the building, get an idea of what they need, but also building structures and logistical pieces in place for the building. And on top of that, I decided that it would be the perfect time to um, implement this brand new idea of completely turning the way that these teachers teach inside out. So some of it came with a bit of resistance, but not because they didn't want what was best for the kids. They were being asked to do something completely outside of their comfort zone. And
So
some,
important.
yeah,
Yeah, such an important point. Thanks. Yeah.
they were, asked to do something completely outside their comfort zone. And some of these teachers have been doing this for over 20 years. I mean, that's a scary feeling to have such a routine and rhythm in your classroom, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and asks you to do something completely different that you've probably never even heard of. I had to learn alongside my staff. Hannah had to learn alongside the staff. We had to learn how to shift our mindsets from how we would have done it as a classroom teacher to how now we're going to get an entire building to make this change. And we just started small and we took it day by day. And eventually, this way of teaching became part of Rockdale's culture.
Yeah.
Um, and it didn't hurt to have Angie by our side as we did it all, but it was not easy at first. We knew that we had to break it up into small chunks so that it didn't become overwhelming for everybody.
And you've really done it one thing at a time. You
Yeah.
have. You've done a beautiful job of that. And
Yeah.
just knowing the very next piece and knowing when to give the next piece so that they're not overwhelmed, but it's just a natural progression. So
Yeah.
thank you for the kind words you've said about me. To all the listeners, this episode's not just so they're making me feel good, but it's really to highlight the work because you have done the work. You've done it. You and the staff, you've done it. So those have been some of your challenges. Now let's flip it and let's talk about the celebrations.
Yeah.
What are some of the most exciting changes you've seen then, or celebrations you've had as a result of the work?
Well, I mean, I know that Elizabeth is chomping at the bit to share her data, right? She got like you mentioned mic drop earlier. You should have seen her present her data to our staff. Like, this is a true mic drop moment.
Love
But
it.
I mean, I would say that our students are um more confident than I think I've ever seen them be. Um, I remember vividly that we had a student at the beginning of the year, and he was just really struggling with wanting to come to school. Starting a new grade level, kind of knew that school was hard for him. And he was really struggling with coming to school. Like, I was having to like go to him and say, "All right, come on, we can do it. Just come on in. We got this. We're gonna just take it one little step at a time." He's thriving. He's absolutely like crushing it. I mean, his data just blew us out of the water for winter benchmarking.
Oh,
Absolutely amazing. And like something that's just more specific is in January we had a Martin Luther King Jr. musical for our third through fifth grade students, and um, I turned to Elizabeth during the performance and I said, I can actually hear them. I can understand them. I can comprehend what they're saying to me because their fluency has just grown leaps and bounds. Like, it's very impressive the amount of growth that they have had during this school year. Like, to the point where, again, like, it's visible. I can say for sure that this is something that they have achieved.
my gosh, that just warms my heart. Oh, such a sweet story. Elizabeth, you want to add to it?
I think she pretty much hit it. Sometimes I think
She
about it and
did.
it gives me goosebumps. Like thinking about all of the growth that they've made. And at the end of the day, it's not really about us. It's about them, and they have really proven that they want to learn just as badly as we want to teach them. We just had to find the way to do it that was going to make them the most successful. So,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I know you're dying. Let's talk about the
ready.
data.
I'm so
You
ready.
are so data driven, which I, I could not be prouder of. You know, I love that. You know,
Yes.
it's one of my favorite things about you.
Mhm.
Okay. So what are some of the results? What are some of the things you'd like to share with us? Celebrations that stand out? Go ahead. Share
Okay.
away, my dear.
So, when we first started this work at Rockdale, like I said before, we were a targeted school on our Illinois State report card. And we are very excited to say that the past 2 years we have made the shift to a commendable rating, which is a giant accomplishment in itself. But outside
Huge.
of that, yes, outside of that, our data looks fantastic. Don't get me wrong, Hannah and I, our goal is to be exemplary with a blue ribbon attached to our school. We'll get there. But right now, we'll
You
take the
will.
commendable rating. But our data really does look fantastic. So this year, when we took our winter benchmark, we spent a lot of time comparing data from last year when we first started this journey to this year now that we have a pretty good handle on kind of what we're doing in the classrooms. I would say our most impressive data is our fluency data, which is really the piece of data that's telling us whether or not our kids are able to read the words in front of them, right? Because without that skill, we're not going to make a ton of progress anywhere else. So I'm proud to share that because of the intense dedication of our teachers, we saw a dramatic change in our fluency data. So during the 24-25 school year, so last school year when we first started this, we had 89 students that were in the red. So that's the zero, the first through the 30th percentile. We had 54 yellows, which is the 31st through the 49th, and we had 101 greens, which is 50% and above. And just to give you an insight, we have we range between about 225 and 240 kids, who's kind of where we fluctuate at Rockdale. In the winter of that same school year, we had 80 reds, so a drop of nine. We had 59 yellows, so we increased that number by five. And then we had 105 greens, so we increased that number by four. It was a little frustrating to see our students stay stagnant like that, but we also had to remind ourselves that we were only a couple months into this journey with Angie. So
Right.
when we sat down to look at this year's data, so a full year after working with Angie, we were like truly amazed at the difference. So at the start of this school year, we started with 106 reds, 39 yellows, and 75 greens. And in the winter of this school year, we had 73 reds, so a difference of 33 students, 51 yellows, so an increase of 12, and 96 greens, which is an increase of 21 students in the green.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I can say that of the five schools I've worked with, I've never seen such a dramatic jump from fall to winter data. Our goal now is to keep the momentum going into spring benchmarking, but another amazing piece of data I'd love to share with people is our shift in intervention needs, which I think is really important, especially with our implementation of EPLI. So at the beginning of the 25-26 school year, we had 105 students testing below the 30th percentile that qualified for intervention.
Wow.
So that's about 48% of our students. We were able to drop that to 73 kids at the winter benchmark, which is just 33% of our students. Again, and that's half of a year. That's going from August of this year to December of this year. But of those 73 students that are still left in intervention after half of a year with EBLI, 30 of them have documented IEPs. 17 of them receive EL services, meaning that English is not their first language, and five are both EL students and students who receive IEP services. So that really only leaves us with 21 gen ed students with no other additional services needed in intervention. And we're still intervening with our EL students and we're still intervening with our IEP students because they deserve to have their needs met as well. But when you look at those numbers, we have 21 out of 223 students that we currently have enrolled at Rockdale that are in intervention. So those numbers to me, after half of a year of EBLI and Super Kids implementation, is worth all the hard work that we put in at Rockdale. I keep reminding the staff, if our numbers can change that dramatically in half a year, imagine what they're going to look like in 2 or 3 years. If we
Yes.
keep the momentum that we're at and keep our eyes focused on the goal, we will truly be unstoppable at Rockdale. And that is an incredible feeling, especially where we started. Um, there's probably a million more pieces of data that I could share that we dug into, but I'll spare everyone the multiple hour-long synopsis of how amazing our kids and staff are at Rockdale.
And it is incredible the progress they're making and the students that are moving to out of intervention,
Yes.
no longer needing intervention in such a short time. And you've had students that have gone red to green,
Yep.
Yes.
red to blue. I
Yep.
mean, you've had not just growth, you've had dramatic growth
Yes.
in individual students. It's truly been amazing. So let's talk for a bit now. If a principal or an assistant principal is listening today, and let's say that now, after hearing this, they are ready to make a similar shift, or hearing this has inspired them to do it, because again, we all admit this is hard work. What advice would you give them? Either of you or both of you?
Sure. One, look into Angie's work. Obviously,
Oh my.
you're already doing so by listening to her podcast.
Mhm.
So that's step one. But she really has done a great job of making all of these shifts manageable for us as leaders and then for our staff, and our and then ultimately our students. I said two, because of Angie's work, I know that it's been guided a lot by Dr. Anita Archer and John Hattie. We've done a lot of diving into that research as well, so that's been very helpful and beneficial to us. And then I said three, be a partner to your teachers.
Yeah.
Listen to them, learn with them, show them that you're walking alongside them.
Well, I did not know you were going to do that plug for me. So let me say thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, Elizabeth, do you want to add to it?
Yeah, I echo everything that Hannah says. My answer is very similar to hers. You just have to do it. Call Angie,
Yes.
get on her calendar, listen to everything she tells you to do, and if you do that and your staff is on board, you are going to meet your goal. The work is hard. You are not always going to receive positive feedback from staff as they navigate the change because change is hard, but I promise the results are worth it.
Wonderful. What would you say to leaders who felt overwhelmed or unsure at the beginning? I remember feeling that way.
Yeah,
So,
you just have to take it one day at a time. That's truly all you can do. If you try to fix everything at once, that's where the overwhelming feeling comes in. So start with learning intentions and success criteria. When your staff has mastered that, move on to the next step. Giving you and your staff like small attainable goals makes this
yes.
process 100 times easier. I'm not going to lie and say that it's an easy process because it's not. We've pushed ourselves and our entire staff out of their comfort zone. And I know I mentioned that earlier, but it's so worth it when you have a student walk into your office with a giant smile on their face, yelling with excitement about how they moved from, red to green on their map testing, or when a student tells you they read 47 more words in December than they did in August. The best is when a staff member comes up to you crying because they feel like they're actually teaching their students. And this is the first time they felt like they're seeing growth in their kids that they haven't seen in, 15 years that they've been in the classroom. Everything you do as a leader should revolve around the success of your students and staff. And if you keep that in your mind, that overwhelming feeling will start to melt away.
See, I'm sorry. I'm about to cry. That's what makes you so great. That's what makes you so special. So, do the staff members know that you guys are doing this tonight?
No.
No.
No
All
idea.
right.
No.
So, I know a lot of them listen. What would you like to say to them right now in this little surprise episode? What would you like to say to the staff members?
We are eternally grateful for the hard work that you have done over the past 2 years. There is literally no way that we would have made the growth and the progress that we have without them. Um, I tell Hannah all the time, we're not in the classrooms doing this. We can guide them to the answer. We can give them strategies. We can support them in any way that they need us to support them. But at the end of the day, they are the ones sitting in front of those students every day doing the hard work that it takes to see the growth that we've seen. We cannot take credit for any growth that has happened in this building without first giving credit to the teachers that we have in our building. And they're not all at the same level. They are not all functioning at the same level of comfortability with explicit instruction. They are not all at the same level of implementation in their classroom. But without a doubt, every single teacher in this building has embraced it and has tried it and has made progress with this instructional mindset. That's all we can ask of them. And I think we just appreciate them so much and everything that they do for our students. And I hope that they realize how lucky our students are to have them because not all teachers are willing to do the work.
Oh, true. Well, that one made me cry. Okay, so like you said, how you can't take the credit for the work they've done. Here are my closing thoughts. Elizabeth, Hannah, I can't either. You've said so many times my name, Colleen, and thank you for that. It's not a shameless plug to the listeners. I didn't ask them to do that. Did not know they were going to. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. But I want to take a moment to honor the two of you because you've done the work. Just like you said, you can give the suggestions to the teachers. I mean, I can come there. I can come on site. I can do the training. I can say this is what should be done. But it's the two of you that have stepped up and done the work. And truly what sets you apart is how deeply embedded that both of you have become in the daily work of the teaching and the learning, being willing to model, spending quality time in those classrooms, learning the look fors of explicit instruction. But you spend intentional, purposeful, quality time in those classrooms. And like you've mentioned, not to evaluate and not just to observe, just to see it, but truly to support, coach those teachers, but also to celebrate them, to celebrate them, to celebrate their growth as teachers, but also to celebrate that student growth. And every single move that you've made has been purposeful, it's been strategic, and as you said, Elizabeth, you so eloquently said it. It's been aligned for one reason, what's best for students, for the students' growth. So I want to commend you both because you've never looked at any of this work as impossible. You've instead chosen to look at it and believe that you could do it as leaders, your staff could do it, your students could do it, and you've believed from the bottom of your hearts. And as Elizabeth said, you've lost sleep about it or dreamed about it, but you guys have believed that every single student can learn to read and make those gains and that you haven't settled for anything less than that. So you've shown a remarkable willingness to do the hard work, to do the challenges, embrace the challenges, embrace the barriers, the resistance, ask the tough questions, call me every time you've needed it, whatever, but to truly lead your school community through change and conviction, that mindset, that combination of both the belief in it, but also the action, the steps you've done, that is what truly drives transformation in schools. So I just want to say, I hope I can say this without losing it. It has been a complete honor for me to support you in this work and to do this work alongside you. So I commend you. I commend both of you, the staff, the students, all of you. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to continue to celebrate you because this is by no means the end of, I know you guys have lofty goals and I know you're going to reach them. So in closing, before I wrap this podcast up, is there anything else that you want to say? Anything at all?
I think if you find a good partner to work with and you both have the same mindset and you keep those students in the forefront of your mind, nothing's going to stop you from getting them where you want them to be. And I truly believe that.
Well, Elizabeth, Hannah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, for sharing your story, sharing your leadership journey with us. It's been amazing to watch, and I know others are going to learn from this. Your work at your school at Rockdale is living proof that when leaders are brave enough, yes, brave enough and courageous enough to challenge the status quo, to invest in their teachers, to lead with clarity, purpose, intention, that it's possible, truly possible to dramatically shift outcomes for kids. So, to all of our listeners, man, I hope and pray that this has left you feeling inspired. And remember this, as they have both shared, and as I always say, change is hard, but it's not impossible. It's doable. And the work that they're doing can be replicated in all schools across the country. You just heard both Elizabeth and Hannah do a fabulous job of sharing what is achievable when the right systems, people, and mindsets are in place, and they have it. So I'm very proud to say that this episode of Grit and Grace has been brought to you today by Zahner Blozer and the Super Kids Reading Program, where they tirelessly work to have all students reading by the time they enter third grade. So until next time, listeners, may you all keep leading with grit. Lean into the grace because we all need it. And may you never, ever lose sight of what's possible. And a huge shout out to Rockdale School District. Bye. Until next time.
Grit